Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another fantastic episode of Jagcast. Today, we'll be discussing a pretty hot topic, vaping. To provide you with the proper information on the subject, as well as campus policies and resources, the crew here at Jagcast has teamed up with the IUPUI Office of Health and Wellness. We welcome Director Eric Teske here today. So, what is vaping? According to the Center on Addiction, vaping is the act of inhaling and exhaling the aerosol produced by an electronic smoking device, or ESD. ESDs include things such as e-cigs, vapes, Juuls, vape pens, and other vaping devices.
Really, in the world of vaping, this didn't even exist before 2007, and it wasn't even really studied until 2011. So this is, in the grand scheme of things, very new sort of entire industry almost.
Why is vaping not a good word for it? The word vaping is actually a misleading term from the tobacco industry. According to the American Non-Smokers' Rights Foundation, ESDs do not just emit harmless water vapor. ESDs actually release aerosol into the lungs.
This is genius marketing, right, on the part of the manufacturers, because vapor sounds so pleasant. It sounds healthy and natural and normal and refreshing. And if they called it what it really was, which is aerosols, I think people would have a different idea about it.
Why is vaping so popular and or addictive? Well, despite the inherent dangers of these devices, vaping has become increasingly popular, especially with younger people. The CDC claims that flavors and marketing make e-cigarettes appealing to youth. Additionally, many youth believe these products to be less harmful than conventional cigarettes, which is not the case.
That's right. They really are glossing over the entire issues with long-term health consequences, problems affecting the brain and the adolescent developing brain. It's not simply enough to look at the kinds of chemicals or comparing it as a one-to-one against burning tobacco. There's a whole different sort of variety of things that we want to be concerned with.
Students and faculty should consider the short and long-term effects of vaping, both on themselves and the others around them. The aerosol breathed in from electronic smoking devices includes nicotine, chemicals linked to serious lung disease, volatile organic compounds, and heavy metals such as nickel, tin, and lead. Minor issues caused by vaping include increased airway resistance, coughing, and airway irritation, chest pain, increased blood pressure and heart rate, nosebleeds, dry skin, vomiting, and nausea. More serious effects are nicotine addiction, increased risk of cancer, lung injury, and death.
It's certainly an irritant in every aspect of the respiratory system. The ultrafine particles penetrate deeper into the lung. People tend to inhale deeper than they do with regular burning tobacco. So it certainly is causing its own set of issues with the respiratory system.
Secondhand vape. Contrary to popular belief, there is such a thing as secondhand vape. The correct term is actually secondhand aerosol, and this contains nicotine, ultrafine particles, and low levels of toxins that are known to cause cancer.
Think back to the first sort of generation of the e-cigarettes and the vaping devices. They would have that huge cloud of smoke. And so that was a little bit more visible and easy to spot. You'd see those people blowing out the big puffs of what even looked like smoke. Now with some of the devices, you almost can't even see what's being exhaled. And so these ultrafine particles, it's not as obvious, but studies actually show that they're traveling even further in closed environments than regular smoke would. So just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there, and just because it's not the same thing as smoke doesn't mean that it's not potentially harmful.
Health effects in comparison to cigarette usage. While the CDC reports vapes expose users to fewer harmful chemicals than burned cigarettes, the use of any tobacco product is unsafe for young people. One of the largest problems concerning the safety of people using vaping devices is the lack of education and understanding we have about vaping and vaping devices. Electronic smoking devices remain largely unregulated in the 10 years since they came on the scene. In fact, big tobacco interferes with many smoke-free policies. Juul supports weak policies at the federal and statewide level that are preemptive in nature and prevent future efforts by local governments to regulate where the products are used, sold, and how they are taxed.
It's absolutely fascinating. There's this idea that these vape companies are somehow the good guys and that they're different from the tobacco companies. In reality, big tobacco are shareholders in these electronic cigarette and vaping device companies. And so their interests are very much aligned in deregulation and increasing access and marketing to youth to get people hooked as early as possible to become lifelong customers.
You can't have colorful video ads of cigarettes anymore, but you can with vaping devices, can't you?
It's certainly interesting to see when you see a commercial on television for electronic cigarette or vaping device when it's been illegal to advertise cigarettes on television for years. It's sort of eerie to see. And when you see billboards and magazine ads when there's fewer and fewer cigarette ads out there, it definitely is using all the old tactics from the old big tobacco playbooks to get people hooked on a whole new system.
Misconceptions spread by the vaping industry. Another misconception spread by the vaping industry is that not all vaping devices contain nicotine. This is not true. According to the CDC, some vaping devices marketed as containing 0% nicotine have been found to contain nicotine.
This is not only true with products that are supposed to just be flavor, they actually have nicotine. It's also true of products that are supposed to only be CBD oil that end up having THC in them. When you have products that are on the fringe like this, or that are so sparsely regulated, things slip through. And unfortunately, that's left on the consumer to experience the consequences. If they think all they're doing is getting flavor, or they think all they're doing is getting CBD oil, they're getting something that they're not anticipating that could be harmful to them.
I think that's one of the biggest draws of vaping is that people say, oh, it's just flavor. It's just water and flavor. But it's actually aerosol and harmful chemicals. And most of the time, it is nicotine. People say, oh, I don't vape the ones with nicotine. But they are vaping the ones with nicotine because the industry is putting nicotine in the ones even marketed as 0% nicotine.
Or they're buying off-brand. People are even making their own stuff at home, refilling cartridges. It's just the Wild West, and you don't know what you're getting. It's really hard to tell if what you have is actually what's on the label.
When I was doing the research for this episode, I found out that you might buy like a jewel pod and you might take 2 or 3 weeks to go through the whole pod, but another person might be doing the whole pod in one day. I mean, I don't know. Do jewel boxes or pods or however they sell them, I don't know. Do they come with serving sizes?
Yeah, it's sort of like when you change your money into Disney dollars at the park, right? They're trying to obscure the standard unit that you might be familiar with. And so the more they can disguise how much actual nicotine you're getting, the more likely you are to overconsume or to have more than you typically would. So even people who are switching from cigarettes to e-cigarettes, they might actually end up using more nicotine than they were before, just because there's not that great one-to-one comparison of exactly how much they're getting.
Here on campus, IUPUI is committed to creating a healthy campus and city. The campus has had a tobacco and smoke-free policy since 2007. Under this policy, products such as hookahs, vaporizers, e-cigarettes, chewing tobacco, snug, smokeless tobacco, cigars, pipes, dissolvable tobacco, and any product that contains tobacco, produces vapor or smoke, or is intended to mimic a tobacco product are banned on all university property, including parking garages and lots.
The policy really is all-inclusive. From the beginning, the policy, if you look at the interpretation of it, has included e-cigarettes, but that was made even more explicit in 2014 when definitions were added just to make that really clear and obvious that it definitely includes electronic devices and things that mimic tobacco products.
Students who violate this policy may receive a variety of sanctions, including but not limited to warning, loss of privileges, exclusion, and suspension or dismissal from IU. If you would like to report a violation of IUPUI's policy, you can do so at nosmoke.iupui.edu under the Policy Violation tab. A link will be included in the description of this episode. Students and faculty can also view FAQs concerning the campus no smoking policy.
Yeah, the way that the people in charge of disciplining or sanctioning people who are in violation of the policy depend on their status and their relation to the campus. So faculty can be held accountable by academic affairs, staff can be held accountable by human resources, and students by the Office of Student Conduct. If a report comes through or if someone is found to be in violation of the policy, those different bodies would be in charge of deciding what the outcome is for each of those different populations. We understand it is definitely a violation of campus policy, and so it would be up to those different offices or entities to decide how they want to handle it, whether it be a warning at first, if it's a repeated offense, or if it becomes problematic. It certainly could escalate from there. So these offices like to have the flexibility to look at things at a case-by-case basis, and so they really are not going to come out with guidance saying that it's automatically this or it's automatically that. They really want to let you know that really everything's on the table when it comes to violating the campus policies.
When I first toured campus and first enrolled in campus, I was incredibly excited about the no smoking policy because for several years I lived in a neighborhood where all of my neighbors smoked. Mm-hmm. My parents don't smoke. I haven't ever lived in a smoking household, but the neighbors around us smoked, and it affected my siblings' ability to have the freedom to play outside because we'd be oh, I want to play outside, but my siblings and I all knew the effects of secondhand smoke, and we never wanted to risk that for ourselves. So, I don't know. I'm a little disappointed that I see so many people smoking and vaping on campus. Just this past week, I saw 2 different people smoking at the bus stop. And then today, I saw a bus driver on campus smoking, presumably on their break, which, I guess it's their break, but they're still on campus. So, can you tell me some more about how the policy is enforced?
Yeah, so first of all, there's a lot of confusion and ambiguity and misunderstandings about the policy itself. So the policy applies to any on-campus location. The policy itself refers to 2 different things. So there's the campus policy and then there's the state law. So the state law says that it's illegal to smoke within 8 feet of a public building and that we can't have ashtrays or receptacles within 8 feet of the building. And that is enforceable by law. So police officers could actually cite someone for smoking within 8 feet of a building, and it is up to building managers or responsible parties to remove people from those areas, or if someone's smoking indoors, which is, these days incredibly rare if it ever happens at all, then we do have a legal obligation to remove people from those areas. So the state law is different from the campus policy. The campus policy is more broad and covers more types of behaviors in more locations. So the policy, like we had just talked about, covers all of the physical locations on campus and includes e-cigarettes and different types of tobacco. Now, that extends throughout the entire campus, but it does not include the city sidewalks that are part of the city of Indianapolis. And so we will see students smoking on the public sidewalks. Those are the sidewalks that border the public streets, not the sidewalks that cut across the courtyard and things like that. And so that's technically not part of the campus jurisdiction. And so it starts to create a lot of confusion around, I saw someone smoking right next to campus and it looked like they were smoking on campus. And then people don't know quite where that border is.
Yeah, I need a map. So the street right here outside the IT building, that sidewalk, is that considered the city sidewalk?
The sidewalk part of the sidewalk is the sidewalk.
Because I see people smoking by that third farthest planter from the door of the IT building. Mm-hmm. And I'm technically they're on the sidewalk. But then I see lots of people, especially as it gets colder, they huddle by the doors so they can make their getaway in and out.
Yeah, they get closer and closer to the doors. It's more and more courtyard versus sidewalk. So yeah, and that's exactly where it creates the confusion because it makes it harder and harder to have that clear line of this is exactly where it's allowed and where it's not allowed. And that makes it harder to confront people too because they could say, well, you want me to take 2 steps in this direction and then it's okay as opposed to right here. The way that the policy is right now, it's socially enforced. We don't have patrols that go around issuing tickets to people.
With the smoking police.
Right.
The smoke cop.
There is a lot of interest in giving designated groups of volunteers a little bit more structure to have people that maybe have some pre-written scripts or materials to give to people, to ask people to comply with the policy. Ultimately, the policy, on the actual policy website, it lists the superintendent of public safety as the responsible party for enforcement. So I know they have an online reporting form that's going to be added to the policy itself. We have a reporting form that's at nosmoke.iupui.edu, and that's how we can identify where these problem areas are so we can increase the chance of catching somebody in the act to remind them that it is against the policy.
So is the form the only way of doing so?
The online form is not the only way. That's a convenient way so that we can gather information, especially if it's something that someone thinks, this happened an hour ago. I just want to document it so that somebody's aware. By that time, the person's long gone. But we can start to learn where the hot spots are. It is something that public safety is able to have some enforcement with cadets on campus that are making patrols. Even IU police could give reminders if it's an area that there are a lot of policy violations. It seems to be a hot spot. It's not something that the police are charged with enforcing, but it's something that they can help out. Sometimes they're already in the area, or if it's more convenient for them to give reminders.
How does IUPUI provide help to students and faculty looking to stop? What are some of the resources that the campus offers?
For students, my Office of Health and Wellness Promotion offers nicotine cessation coaching. So students can actually work one-on-one with a coach to get some motivation, some help overcoming barriers and setting goals to successfully make their next quit attempt. Quitting nicotine, it can take a few tries, but every new attempt at quitting nicotine makes it more likely that you'll be successful. So even if this next attempt isn't the one that's going to stick, it makes it more likely that you're getting closer. For me personally, it took about 9 different attempts where I sat down and said, this is the real one. I really mean it this time. And it was about 9 times before I was able to follow through with it. So we know that for people, it might take more than one go, but with a combination of nicotine replacement therapies, including like the mints, gums, patches, things like that, along with the support from a coach or a counselor, that's the best odds of successfully quitting.
As the director of the Office of Health and Wellness, what outside resources would you suggest to students and faculty looking to quit vaping or smoking?
There's actually quite a few different avenues. Everybody seems to be interested in helping people quit smoking or using nicotine products. Students, faculty, and staff likely have their own health insurance, and their insurance companies probably have free programs to help them quit, because it's such a benefit to your health if you're able to stop smoking. A lot of doctors' offices, the county health department, there's national quit lines and 1-800 numbers that can get you set up with coaching over the phone and things like that. So there actually are quite a few resources out there to help people make a quit attempt if they're interested.
That's fantastic. Where can students and faculty learn more about quitting?
Students can go to our website at wellness.iupui.edu, and faculty and staff can go to the Healthy IU website for a list of resources and references to help them quit using tobacco or other nicotine products.
Great. Well, we definitely appreciate you coming to meet with us and all of the information that you've given us. Do you have any closing remarks that you'd like to add?
I'm glad that you invited me to be a part of this. We're really, I think, at a turning point where the conversation's changing. This national scare with vaping-related lung illness, the fact that I think a lot of marketing is starting to be viewed as kind of underhanded and kind of sneaky, and people are almost feeling taken advantage of by the fact that these companies have been targeting youth. It's leaving a bad taste in people's mouth, no pun intended, I guess. And so I think viewing these companies as, oh, they're no longer the good guys, trying to help people find an alternative to smoking cigarettes, that we're really viewing them for what they are, which is opportunistic, predatory, taking advantage of people who are getting hooked on nicotine, trying to find new revenue streams for a country that is getting sick of tobacco. And unfortunately, this is sort of like the new iteration of that. I think we're waking up to that fact, and I think the tides are starting to turn.
Great. Thank you very much for all of your help.
Thanks for having me.